Alice in Wonderland, the famous Lewis Carrol novel adapted into the equally as famous Disney film in 1951, is often misunderstood either by people who don't like the film or by people who just choose to melt into the film's madness as a modge-podge of silly, colorful imagery with no connective tissue or intertwining theme. Much like the book that inspired it though, the film actually has one aspect that ties all the scenes together that's often missing from other films that try to incorporate similar styles of colorful, trippy nonsense. At the start of the film, the titular protagonist, Alice, dwells away from her austere home life of structure and discipline to fantasize about what it would be like to live in a world of nonsense, where animals and flowers would talk and sing to her, and everything would catch her curiosity. Much like any protagonist that fails to be careful what he or she wishes for, a white rabbit, who I just realized as chaotic and trippy as he is actually the least so of all the characters the film has to offer, catches her curiosity, and the film kicks off as she coins the popular term of falling down the rabbit hole into her world of nonsense. As the film goes on, her curiosity about this odd world occasionally veers into frustration and confusion as she tries to utilize her mind trained, at least in some respect, to be structured, if not perhaps unfocused, to understand the madness that she's presented with. This is all strung together by her curiosity of where the white rabbit is going and what he's running late for, and characters like Tweedledee and Tweedledum, Mr. Dodo, and especially the Mad Hatter and March Hare serve as obstacles in the form of attention grabbers that end up appealing to her curiosity, but never at all satisfying it. A good example of this is when Alice is simply trying to tell the Mad Hatter and March Hare about where she came from, only to be constantly interrupted by their lunacy.
How about a nice cup of tea?
Have a cup of tea, indeed.
Whether Alice wants to admit it at the beginning or not, she does have a sense of structure to her that she has no idea that she would be abandoning, or even know that she would mind abandoning by dwelling into Wonderland.
It would be so nice if something would make sense for a change.
She knows that a conversation is more enjoyable when it's not constantly interrupted. She doesn't really think outside the box to understand the moral of a story about oysters. She knows that no matter how many times you walk around a fire, no one can get dry when constantly being hit by a wave of water. This is something that was severely missing from the film Drop Dead Fred, as that film attempted to have imagery just as colorful and trippy, as well as humor relying just as much on the chaotic departure from reality, but failed to establish any kind of believability in the reality it was trying to depart from. Alice's frustration for the world of nonsense ends up overpowering whatever curiosity she might have about the White Rabbit, or anything else towards the end of the film, as she has a severe desire to return home, but she has by this point dwelled so deep into Wonderland that she's now become lost in the forest of never-ending oddities that she's no longer interested in trying to understand. She's in what's called in storytelling terms the apparent defeat, the moment where it seems like there's no hope for her to either fulfill her curiosity about the White Rabbit or return to her structured home. However, her curiosity peaks one last time when the recurring Cheshire Cat informs her about a queen that might be able to help her find her way home. Much like the rest of the lunacy she runs into, though, this turns out to be, well, just that, lunacy. Only this time, the inability to escape this one would literally mean losing her head. This sends her into a flight of panic as she runs from every bit of nonsense that she has run into up to this point until she realizes that this is all her own dream. With this, she finally returns home to a newfound appreciation for her structured lifestyle. All that sounds like a structured plot in the traditional sense, but the bare skeleton of the plot is indeed fleshed out through colorful, random imagery and characters with trippy, inconsistent personalization. But the one element that keeps it structure and cohesive is simple. The film is essentially Alice wishing for a world of nonsense, being presented with the world of nonsense, learning to appreciate structure and sanity among experiencing all that nonsense, and returning home with a newfound appreciation for structure, something that I guess she was too woke to appreciate in the new Tim Burton film. The film could easily have been an episode or two of frickin' Booba, just a collection of random images with no cohesion, without Alice and her reactions to all that nonsense, and without her sense of structure to contrast against the random imagery. So next time you think that Alice in Wonderland isn't story-based or just a mess of randomness, just ask yourself, would Alice in Wonderland work without Alice?